Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and welcome to a special edition of Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And I'm here today to talk to you about The Haunting Hour, Season 2, Bad Feng Shui. So, this episode came out in Season 2, and around Season 2 is when I started to not like the show. I've talked about The Haunting Hour before plenty of times. Season 1 is really the best. It started to surpass R.L. Stein's Goosebumps, but once it got halfway into Season 2, things just started to get different. Like, the episodes will start off very strong. Like this episode, it starts off very, very strong and very good until you get towards the end, and I'm just kind of like confused. And this is how a lot of episodes in the Haunting Hour started to happen. Like they started getting kind of the story started getting weak towards the end or lackluster and stuff. Also, this is when they started incorporating moral life lessons into kids' horror. And it was weird seeing all these moral life lessons being taught in R.L. Stein's work. And it just didn't really translate well with like the kid horror aspect of it all. But like I said before, bad fun. Nah, I can't barely say. I can say it in my head, but I can't really say it out loud. Bad feng shui. God, I have a hard time saying that. It starts off really, really, really good, and I really love the visuals. I love the dragon ghost monster looking thing. It has a great design to it. I love like how they put a red filter every time the ghost is like around because it really gives that sense of like horror and everything. But then once you get towards the end, it's where I start to get a little confused. But anyway, this episode, it stars American Chinese Indonesian actress Brienne Ju. And I've talked about her before. She was excellent in like Light as a Feather on Hulu. You can go watch that. She gave a good performance in the Amazon I Know What You Did Last Summer television show, but the television show itself is a disaster. I don't like that show whatsoever. But she gave a good performance. It's just the show had no idea what the heck it was doing. And so, like, she's a really, really, really good actress. I forget a show she just recently came off of. I forget the name of it. I think it has the word school in it or something. But yeah, you should really check out some of her projects. She was also in Scream the television series. I don't remember her performance in that, but I've had my problems with Scream the television series because they made her to be just the girlfriend who gets killed off. She didn't really have that big of a role, and it really wasn't that significant. And I've talked to death about that. And one of my reviews about representation and stuff is like, why did they keep giving this dude who's white on the show girlfriends that are people of color just to kill them off? As that's really was this only their purpose on the show. He had Brienne, who was like, his Chinese girlfriend, and then he had this other girl who was his black girlfriend, and both were just like killed off just because that's the only purpose they had on the show. It really sucks. That's not representation. They could have just cast like, a white person in that role. They were just gonna like kill the person off. But if you want real representation, give real representation. And so this episode is your basic, Asian teenage character who's very Americanized and who has like, a parent who is very traditional in like their culture and stuff like that. And because of that, they clash. You've seen it a million times before. I've seen it in the 90s with like Ghost Rider. I've seen it in the early 2000s when I was in college and our teacher made us watch a movie about all these different like races having Thanksgiving and how their Thanksgiving is different from everybody else. It's something you normally always see in like, every once in a while in like American and Canadian, like, television series that has like an Asian teen character sometimes. And, they're all like, I wasn't born in like, Japan or China and this and that. So I shouldn't have to like learn like, traditional ways or speak the language and stuff like that. Whereas the parent gets like really on to them talking about, your culture is very important, which it is. And many people don't know their culture. Like I've talked about how like, Lelaine from Lizzie McGuire, she's Filipino but of the Hispanic descent, and she can't even really like speak Spanish, and she doesn't know anything about her culture. Same with like Demi Lovato. I believe Demi Lovato said at one time that even she can't speak Spanish that well. I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that, and and it's quite like, sad when people don't know their heritage and their culture. Like same thing with a lot of like black Americans. We don't know nothing about our ancestors other than, they've been slaves in like America. And like we don't know nothing about like, where they actually came from and ancestry and stuff like that. And so like holding on to one's tradition is very, very, very important. Because once you become too normalized, and not just Americanized, just like Canada, Europe, when you become like, I guess you could say like normalized, you do tend to erase like your heritage and everything, and you start to become like one of them, you know, and it's quite sad and everything. And so this is what the huge argument is for like the first good couple of minutes of like the episode. Um, Crap, I didn't even write down in my notes what the characters are called. I just wrote their real name. That's so embarrassing. So anyway, I wrote down some of the characters, not all of them, but I think her last name is Chen. And so I'll just say her real name, Brienne. So like, she's supposed to help out her mom do this stuff like this and study, and like her mom misses her playing violin music, but all she wants to do is hang out with her friend and go to places like the mall and the school dance and stuff like that. And so her mom is really upset about that. And like, so her mom, yeah, maybe I should go look and see what the name of the characters are. I'll be right back. Okay, Brienne, she plays Jessica, and the show that she was last on was called High School. That came out in 2022. And so, like, her mother, who only goes by Mrs. Chen, is played by Benita Ha, and she is from China, but she moved to Canada. And I remember when I first saw her back in the early 2000s, she was in a movie called Valentine. I've talked about that movie before. Go watch that. And so, like, she only had a very small role. She played Dorothy's, like, new stepmother. She was like a young 20-something-year-old married to Dorothy's old rich father. And she only has like a tiny, like, role in that where she argues with, like, Dorothy and stuff. And so, like, her and her mom just can't get along about like Jessica room being a mess and her not being responsible and remembering stuff and all this other stuff. So her mom goes down to Chinatown and she meets a man called Mr. Ming, and Mr. Ming is played by Colin Fu. And this man's been like in everything. He stars in like a lot of stuff. In fact, a couple of members of this, everybody in the whole episode, except for Brienne, has been in Smallville. And so like, she's telling him her problems about like her daughter. And he's all like, maybe she should like rearrange her room and have some like more Chinese artifacts and, to get better. I'm going to say his word again. Feng Shui. I hope I said that right. So her mom buys a bunch of stuff and she rearranges her room. Now, I've heard this term before, and from what I heard about it a long time ago, they say just rearrange your room so your chi can flow better, and because everything looks the same and everything feels like cluttered and like and compact, and rearrange stuff to get like a better flow in your room and a better perspective and stuff like that. But in here they have her buy a bunch of, well, of course, 'cause he just also wants to sell her stuff, a bunch of like figurines and stuff. And so when Jessica goes to her room, she is outraged. She wants all her stuff back, and she calls all these artifacts stupid Chinese stuff. And because she's very disrespectful and everything. And her mother's trying to tell her, like, all these things are like very, very important and stuff. And she starts to talk about like the different like animals and what they're supposed to represent. Like the horse, perseverance. The dragon is supposed to protect you. The elephant is supposed to give you a good memory. A fish is supposed to give you achievement and stuff. But Jessica's just not having it. And so, like, in another scene, Jessica is so, like, furious that when she's talking to her friend Megan, who is played by Victoria Duffield, she is literally trashing all these like figurines. She's tossing them out the window and there's like smashing and stuff. This is how disrespectful Jessica is. Jessica just does not care. And she does not care about her own culture and stuff. And so when Jessica goes to sleep, we see this weird hand come out of like a cabinet, a dresser cabinet looking thing with a snake symbol on the cabinet. And then when she wakes up, her mom goes to her room to wake her up, and everything is just smashed in the room. And so her mom blames Jessica, and Jessica's like, "Mom, I didn't trash my room." Technically, she kind of did. She trashed all the stuff her mom bought her, but everything else in her room she didn't touch. It was that weird, what they call it, the ghost. I call it the dragon, but they call it the ghost, so I call it the ghost. It's the one who trashed her room, right? And so when she's talking to her mom at one point, this is when the ghost, like, appears and stuff. And it appears in like this red filter camera, lighting on the camera, which is amazing. It's like this like blood red type thing. And it just grabs her mom, and it has the face of like a snake looking dragon thing. And it just grabs, but it's really a snake because it came out the little snake cabinet thing. But it grabs her mom and just like takes her. Because why? Jessica, when she was arguing with her mom, says, I wish you would just like disappear. Because she's just so mad and angry at her mom. She just wants her mom gone. And that's what the snake did. It took her mom. So now she's freaking out and everything. So she runs to her room and she hides. Well, Megan comes over and her mom actually answers the door. And her mom looks like she's in a trance, like she's brainwashed and everything, like a really evil, zombified type person. I'm just thinking to myself, oh no, like did the snake, like ghost thing go inside like the mom? Is it gonna like, kill Megan? Is it gonna try to kill Jessica? Like what's gonna go on? But she just stares at her with an angry look. And so then, like, Megan goes to Jessica's room and Jessica's still just freaking out. And then the ghost thing that looks like the snake dragon thing tries to come in. Well, I guess, yeah, it is a snake because the dragon's supposed to protect. But the shape of its face looks kind of like a dragon. But yeah, it's a snake. So anyway, the snake tries to come into the room. They're freaking out and they hightail it out the window. And so Jessica tells her, we need to go to like Chinatown and everything to figure out how we're gonna like, get my mom back and, get rid of this snake thing. And because it started happening when her mom bought this stuff from Chinatown. And so when Megan's in Chinatown, she's very like, surprised by everything she sees. It feels like she's in a foreign country. And this is something I've always wondered about because when I first heard about Chinatown, it was in the early 2000s when I bought a movie called Kiss of the Dragon by Jet Li, which I will be talking about later on this month. And that's there's like an evil cop, an evil white cop, and he has like all these like other people who are cops that are like his minions and stuff, and they're trying to find Jet Li's character. And they're all like, well, he's probably hiding out in Chinatown. And so he's all like, well, go there. And he's all like, I can't go there at this time of night. They don't let people like us in Chinatown. And the dude who said that was white. So it makes me wonder, like, is that just a place for like people who are like, Chinese and stuff like that? Because later on in life, I watched another show in the 2013 or something like that. And there was this one Asian man, China, from back in like the 1800s, right? And so when he got banished from like the town, he had to go to Chinatown. And so, like, this one lady who's white asked this other dude who's white, a cowboy, like, all like, where can I find this dude? And he's all like, well, he's probably in Chinatown. He's all like, you best not go there. But she goes there anyway. And everybody just keeps staring at her and stuff. And then I watched this show just about 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, and I talked about it, called Warrior, on my channel. And so, like, it's very predominantly Asian on that show, and it's set back in the 1800s. And they show the conflict between Chinese men and white men from back in the old days. And so like, they were turned like into slaves by Puerto Rico, and I had no idea and stuff like that. So anyway, Mr. Ming, he tells Jessica, what makes you think I can like get rid of your ghost when it's your ghost and everything? And she doesn't understand what that means. And so like, he told her, your mom came in here about your problem, and he gave her some artifacts to help like the flow, better in your room and stuff like that. And her friend told her, yeah, you kind of broke all that stuff in your room and kind of messed your room up and everything. And you put like this like evil vibe in your room. And so Jessica now realizes, crap, like, all that stuff that your mom bought me was really important. And I really brought in like this demon thing into like my home. And so they go back to her home, but Jessica feels like she needs to do this on her own. So her friend waits outside. So Jessica, puts back the elephant and the horse and the fish and stuff like that. But the monster comes in her room anyways, and the dragon did not protect her. And she doesn't understand why this isn't working. Even I don't understand and stuff. Because, but then it turns out that since this is Jessica's ghost and everything, she made that wish of like wanting her mom to disappear. And we see her mom now in this type of like hidden pocket dimension, all in black. This is the part that gets super confusing because, Jessica's talking about how like she wants her mom back and all this and other stuff. And her mom is kind of like, I guess like her mom is inside the ghost or whatever, and her mom is struggling to reach for something, and she reaches, and then somehow Jessica grabs onto the violin. And this is the part that gets even more confusing. I don't know how her mom was able to gather that type of like strength that like force Jessica to grab onto the violin, and then she realized, oh wait, this must be my mom trying to channel like through me or something like that. And she's all like, my mom loves it when I play like violin music and I stop. So she starts playing violin music. This causes pain to like the ghost. And then all of a sudden her mom just reappears. And I'm just kind of like, what the heck just happened? Like, it wasn't really done that well of how her mom like came back and how they defeated like the ghost monster, and like there was no transformation because I guess they were limited on like their budget at this time, and it didn't make all that much sense to me, and I wish it was more impactful, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, the beginning of this episode was really, really, really great and stuff. But it's just the ending that I just felt was kind of like a whimper and stuff. But all in all, it was a pretty cool, like, episode and stuff. Happy Asian and Pacific Islander month, everybody. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.